All right. Good morning, everybody. We are excited to have with us this morning Lieutenant Commander Adam Kerrick of the Blue Angels. Adam is an Eagle Scout from the Cradle of Liberty Council, Troop 72 in Overlook Hills, part of the Washington District. So we are thrilled to have Lieutenant Commander Kerrick with us this morning, and we're going to turn it over to him to talk a little bit about his time in scouting and how that's impacted him in his life, and also talk about the Blue Angels a little bit, of course.
All right. Well, thanks, John. I appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity to speak to everyone today. It's a real treat to get to speak to who I would have been, 15, 20 years ago. I wish I had the opportunity to have met a Blue Angel, although digital in this case, it's still an honor to get to speak to everyone. Like John said, I was an Eagle Scout. I grew up in Abington Township, went to Abington High School, played football and lacrosse there, and then worked my way up in Troop 72, quartermaster, patrol leader, senior patrol leader, and then all the way up to Eagle Scout. I got to spend some time at Rustica Falls every summer, like many of you scouts, worked on all my merit badges there. I got to do high adventures every year in the summer for the older boys. We did some great trips up to Maine, a lot of canoeing. I was on the canoe race team for the troop. But scouts in my life played such a huge role, and I still say that to this day. I learned more in the scouts in such a short amount of time about life in general, leadership, leading men and women than I did at any other point in my life. After high school, I attended the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and I found myself showing up there already knowing all the knots, already knowing how to sail, already knowing how to canoe, already knowing what it means to be a follower, what it means to be a leader, and I just was leaps and bounds in front of a lot of my classmates because of Boy Scouts. If you were to put me in the middle of the woods, I probably would have been able to survive pretty well, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. And I just felt very thankful that I had such a wonderful group of boys and fathers and mothers from Troop 72 that set me up to succeed in life at the Naval Academy. And in this case, now I find myself as Blue Angel number 8 with the United States Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron. So let's just talk a little bit about leadership, followership, what it means to have a positive attitude and what that will lead to as you move through life, and then a little bit about setting goals. As I talked about, I made Eagle Scout. I went to the Naval Academy, and I got to fly jets off aircraft carriers over Afghanistan and Iraq for a little while. The only reason I achieved those things is through hard work and setting goals. So that positive attitude transitions to achieving goals eventually. I always put out ahead of myself, I'm going to make Eagle Scout, and here are the steps I need to make to get there, right? So I need a certain amount of merit badges. I need, a certain amount of leadership. I need to do my project. You break it down and you set goals for yourself. And at the end, the carrot that you have dangling out in front of you is Eagle Scout. But you always picture yourself and you keep that positive mental attitude of being able to see yourself in that uniform, or see yourself with that rank, or see yourself graduating from the Naval Academy, or whatever your goal may be. Keep that out in front of you and always work towards it, and never, ever accept that you're not going to make it. Because keeping a positive mental attitude and keeping a goal out in front of you is so powerful. You have no idea. So always see yourself, visualize yourself achieving whatever goal you set for yourself, whether it be a merit badge, making rank, getting good grades in school, for instance. All that you put in front of you, and you keep in the forefront of your brain, and just say, hey, I'm going to make this goal one day, and then work yourself back from that goal and think, okay, I need to do this, this, and this to make that goal happen. Like I said, whether it's merit badges, rank, whatever it is that you need to do to make that Eagle Scout or achieve that goal, work backwards and figure out what it's going to take to make that goal. The other thing is leadership. I touched on leadership when I was talking about the Naval Academy. In the Boy Scouts or the Scouts, I know we have girls now too, which is great. The military has men and women serving overseas now, and the Scouts have always kind of mirrored the military. So it's good to see females on board with the scouting program as well. But leading people is tough. And as I always say, to lead people, you first have to know how to be a follower. So first, find the leader that you want to emulate, or find a good leader that you want to take notes on, and follow that person. Learn all the good things, maybe there's some bad things, and write them down and figure out, hey, I don't want to do those things, but I do want to do these things. Be a good follower. Follow that person, take notes, and understand how they work. And then when the time comes for you to be a leader, you're ready to step up and take the reins and be that good leader, that good charismatic person that always has a good plan and a good way to execute that plan. So those are my 2 cents for leadership. But I will tell you that you will be looked upon as an Eagle Scout or a Boy Scout in general. The things you learn in the Scouts are so valuable to what you will achieve in life and to the experiences you will have in life. I know maybe you're called a nerd at school. I know I was, a Boy Scout, what a nerd. I'll tell you what, the people that called me nerds aren't doing what I'm doing right now. So, be humble, but understand that the things you're doing now will pay off later in life in ways that you won't understand until you're in my shoes. Mid 30-year-old guy, looking back on his days of going to Resica Falls and then thinking, man, they were some great times. I learned a lot from my dad and from the other fathers in the troop, and the skills that I learned are so valuable to this day. I have a 1979 CJ7 that I put it's a Jeep, an old Jeep that I put a Chevy 350 motor in. But I'll tell you, I learned how to work on a Jeep because my Scoutmaster had a 1942 Willys World War II Jeep. And that's what we worked on when we were over his house learning about whatever scouting stuff. We would go out and work on his Jeep. So that's just a small anecdote of what carries over from the Scouts. So leadership, positive attitude, and setting those goals are so important. I know it may not seem like it's important now. I'll tell you, there's a lot of things that get distracting. Sports, girls, all these other distractions you have in high school. But I would implore you to stick to the course and finish up your Eagle Scout if you can. Order the Arrow, great. I did that too, which was awesome. I later became a Freemason, which a lot of the Order of the Arrow stuff carries over to Freemasonry. But it's so important. And I thank God all the time for my experiences in the Boy Scouts and what I learned in the Boy Scouts. And, I'm just so thankful for everything that I was taught and everything I learned through the Scouts. With that, John, can we open up to some questions? I don't know if you have any questions flowing in or not.
Yeah, one of the first ones that we had here is, tell us a little bit about your role with the Blue Angels and some of the training that had to go along with that, and some of those different experiences even up to recently.
Sure. So there are requirements to make the Blue Angels. You have to have it's 1,250 flight hours. I think it's 200 landings on an aircraft carrier, and a number of other prerequisites that you will get just by being an aviator in the fleet. Like I said, I flew off the USS Roosevelt and then the USS Bush. On the Roosevelt, I flew the EA-6B Prowler, and on the Bush, I flew the EA-18G Growler, which is the updated version of electronic attack aircraft. So you'll get the prerequisites in the fleet, flying off aircraft carriers and whatnot. So the training for that is kind of separate. I went to flight school in here in Pensacola back in 2005. So, the training to get to the fleet is one thing, but the training at the Blue Angels is quite a different. So after you get your prerequisites in the fleet, your landings and the number of hours in the air, you can apply to the team, and you rush the team. You show up to a couple air shows and get to know the guys. And then from there, they pick you and you come down for finalist week. And during finalist week, you're interviewed. There's a strength test that you have to do. And then from there, they'll pick you or not pick you. And then from there, you follow the team around for a couple months, and then you go right to winter training. Winter training is we spend in El Centro, California. It's in the high desert right outside of San Diego. It's right on the border of the United States and Mexico. And we fly 6 days a week, 3 times a day for 10 weeks. And that's our training to get ready for the season. And that just gets you safe enough to fly the first air show. And there's a difference between the first air show that we fly and the last air show that we fly. Guys get tighter, the formations get better, the maneuvers get a little tighter as we go. So that's the training. It's a 10-week syllabus, 6 days a week. Our only day off is Sunday. And it's very busy. And then during the year, our normal year, a non-COVID year, we would fly at approximately 34 show sites. So it's every weekend. We would between essentially March and November, every weekend we'd be at a different air show. So our schedule starts on Monday. Monday we have off. That's our only off day. Tuesday we practice in Pensacola. Wednesday we practice in Pensacola. Thursday we fly to the next show site, whether it be Chicago or Philadelphia or wherever we're going for that weekend. So Thursday we'll show up at that new show site. We'll practice twice, land, get some food, go to bed. Next day, a full practice on Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, we fly an air show. As soon as we land Sunday night, we get in the jets, fly back to Pensacola, and then debrief. And we usually get out of the squadron around 9 to 10 p.m. Go to sleep, and then Monday's your only day off. So that's a normal week, and we keep that up for, like I said, between March and November. So it's pretty busy.
Wow, that's busy is a word for it, but also it sounds incredibly technical and the skill that's involved to be able to keep that focus. Not only is it busy, but it's a very focused busy. So
Yes.
It's pretty incredible. One of the questions was you're talking about how to become an aerospace engineer, getting into the aerospace engineering side of what you folks do. If there was any advice that you had for the scouts that were interested in aerospace engineering, how to get involved in that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was an aerospace engineer at the academy. Political science was my degree. Poli-sci and fly, as we used to say. I did do a little bit of time in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. And there are prerequisite courses at the academy, like nuclear thermodynamics I had to take to understand how a nuclear reactor works, for instance. But if you're looking to go the aerospace route, there are plenty of schools that have great aerospace programs, including the Naval Academy. I'll make my shameless plug for Annapolis there. But regardless of what you want to major in, you want to concentrate on doing well in school and taking AP courses if you can. I know at the Naval Academy or any of the service academies, whether it be West Point, Coast Guard, or the Air Force Academy out in Colorado, your first year, you're going to have chemistry, and it's going to be very difficult. Trust me, if you go that route. So I knew I had to take AP chemistry. I didn't want to. I'm not a huge chemistry guy, but I knew I had to take that course, and I knew I had to do well in it. So my advice, whether you're trying to be an aerospace engineer or any kind of engineer for that matter, work hard in school and get the A in whatever the hardest course you can find in high school. Take that course, physics, chemistry, and do well in it. Get an A and take that hardest course. AP, I don't know what they call them today, but when I went to high school, it was called AP Chem. Work hard in school and be a well-rounded student. Take another language if you can. Play sports. All the things that we learn about in the scout law. All those things. if you follow the oath and the law, you will create a very well-rounded person, and that's what you want to be to get into these top-notch schools.
Phenomenal. That's great advice. I think, telling somebody to grow where they're planted is always a good first advice, but appreciate the
Right.
follow-up that you were able to expand on after that. Thank you.
But,
One of the amusing questions, I'll call it, that we have here, do you
Okay.
ever get tired of the Top Gun references?
oh no, it's a great movie. Now I was alive when that movie came out. I was very young, but I was still alive for it. And growing up, of course, our favorite jet, all my buddies, our favorite jet was the F-14. No, never get tired of that. It's a good movie. It's factually, it's not very sound, especially having my job. You can pick out all the little things that are wrong with it. But it's a great movie, and I'll never get tired of the Kenny Loggins theme song. We actually have it in our demonstration. One of the final song is the Top Gun theme song. So I guess we figure if anybody can use it, it's the Blue Angels. So
There you go. Fair enough. Fair enough. We have a really neat technical question about flying here. So what's it like when you're flying in such close demonstration? Tell us a little bit about that feeling, what that's like, and actually how close are you to one another when you're up in the air? Because it looks like you're basically on top of each other. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. So what we tell people is 18 inches. 18 inches. It can be closer than that sometimes. But it's really an exercise in trust. You're trusting 6 guys or girls. We haven't had a female Blue Angel jet pilot yet, but she's out there. There's a young naval aviator female that's going to make the team eventually here. But it's an exercise in trust, because you're trusting the wingman, you're trusting the slot pilot and the 2 solos in that tight diamond, we call it actually Delta formation. You're trusting that everyone is going to be on their game and not bump into you is really what it is. You're trusting that they're going to be on their airspeed, maintaining the proper position to make not only the formation look good, but to make it safe for the other pilots and for the folks that are watching the crowd. So it's an exercise in trust, and it takes a lot of practice. It's a perishable skill for the demonstration pilots. So they have to practice a lot. Usually it's 7 flights a week that we fly. Now lately we haven't been practicing our demonstration very much because we've been doing flyovers of all, some of the major cities on the East Coast. But it's practice and trust and a lot of skill. But 18 inches is what we tell people. Sometimes it gets a little closer. I'll tell you, you can actually, when somebody breaks away, you can actually feel the airflow push you down and affect your aircraft. That's how close you're flying. You're flying so close that you can feel other jets pushing the air away out of their way. So it's pretty close.
Wow. 18 inches at that speed is incredible.
Yep. 400 miles an hour. Yep.
Say that again?
About 400 miles an hour.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, our next question, and before we wrap it up here, we really appreciate your time with us this morning. The next question is actually about the aircraft themselves. So how often are you switching out aircraft? How often are you, does the team do all that maintenance on it? Tell us a little bit about the birds themselves.
Well, you said the perfect word there, and that's team. Teamwork is a huge part of our organization, and as well as the Navy and the Marine Corps, because we also have Marines on the team, if you didn't know that. Our C-130, affectionately known as Fat Albert, is flown by an all Marine Corps air crew, pilots and the cargo master, all Marines. So it's teamwork, not only Navy, Marine Corps, but pilots, officers, and enlisted maintainers. Our maintainers work on the jets, and they will pull 24-hour shifts if necessary. On the Blue Angels, we're lucky to have some of the finest maintainers and enlisted personnel in the entire Navy and Marine Corps. So we switch out jets if one is broken, and there's a lot of things on these old jets that can get broken. The Hornet that we fly, the F-18 Hornet, has been used since the early 80s, and some of our jets are still around from the early 80s. So, there's a million things that could go wrong on these jets mechanically. McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, they built an incredible aircraft, and obviously it stood the test of time. But every now and then you're going to need new parts for it. You're going to need a new generator. We're going to have to switch out an engine. These are all major things that have to get done, and our maintainers, they knock it out of the park every time. They'll pull, like I said, 24-hour shifts to make sure we have 6 ready jets the next day for an air show. And it's really impressive to see them work, because not only does somebody have to do the work, someone has to quality assure that work is done correctly, and then somebody has to sign off, that all the work's been done and everything's been cleaned up and all the tools have been accounted for. You don't want to lose any tools, because they could get sucked down an intake to a jet engine and cause that jet engine to fail. So there's so much work that goes into it, and it's a team effort to get all these jets ready for the demonstration. It's really impressive to see everyone work together.
Yeah, that teamwork, that precision, it sounds like the two hallmarks of our conversation so far today.
Sure is.
So I'll wrap it up. The final question, and just as the hometown guy, what was it like to fly over your home city a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was?
I'll tell you, I got to be honest, it was just pretty emotional. And it wasn't just because I was flying over, my parents were out standing in the parking lot of Abington High School. But it was actually flying over New Jersey and watching people out in their driveway, out in a field, out in a baseball field or a football field, just looking up and watching us. And it was such a unique experience to realize, look, we're all Americans here, and we are your Air Force, and we are your Navy, Marine Corps. It was very emotional, and it was a pretty unique experience. But yeah, flying over, Independence Hall, for instance, where this whole thing that we call United States started, it was awe-inspiring to come down Broad Street in Philadelphia, fly right over City Hall. It was pretty cool. But I planned those routes. I did all the planning for Philadelphia and New York for those flyovers. So it was kind of my baby, my project. So it was neat to see it through to completion. And I'm glad I got to throw in, Old Naval Air Station, Willow Grove, the first place I ever saw the Blue Angels when I was a boy. My grandfather took me there in the 90s to see the Blue Angels. He himself was a Navy veteran, landed at Normandy in World War II. So to fly over Naval Air Station Willow Grove, to fly over Abington High School and down Broad Street past Einstein and all these major hospitals that are doing great work for us, it was a unique experience.
That's terrific. We can't say thank you enough for that service to our country, your years of service, but that in particular act, can't even imagine being in the cockpit for that, but just your service in that way is truly impactful. So thank you.
Thanks, John.
Before we wrap up, any final closing comments for our folks?
Yeah, the only thing, like I said before, stay the course, set a goal for yourself, and achieve it. If you think you're close enough to make Eagle Scout, do it, because it will serve you your entire life, and you'll have a bond with other Eagle Scouts that is unlike any other. You'll be a brother or a sister to some of the finest Americans in the world. So stay the course and figure out what you need to get it done, whether it be your project or your merit badges. Get it done and stay the course.
Amen. Thanks so much for your time today, Lieutenant Commander.
You bet.
Really appreciate your inspiring words, your encouragement, and just spending some time with us today as we enjoy our Camp-o-ree. So thanks for all your time today.
You bet. My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Excellent.